Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning on this webinar on sending SMS with an email to SMS service. We just follow the usual route. We'll go straight into the presentation and we can get to any questions at the end.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be looking at sending SMS text messages from the Horner OCS using an email to SMS service. Let's look at our agenda for today. Firstly, we'll look at why you would send text messages from a machine. Then we'll look at how we'd send text messages using the email feature in the Horner OCS. We'll have a review of the email setup, there will be demonstrations throughout, and we'll finish with a Q&A session. Let's get started. So why would we use text messages instead of a machine or a website? Mobile phones are widely accessible and serve as essential tools for many jobs. While there are certain tasks and job roles where constant access to a mobile phone is inappropriate, it remains a vital tool for numerous job descriptions. In situations where it is necessary to notify the appropriate person about a machine condition, reaching out via a text message on a mobile phone is often the quickest and most effective method. Now we'll look at some examples of applications for delivering SMS texts. Firstly, when you require more material for a machine, you can conveniently send a text message to the responsible material handling person to refill the necessary raw materials. Additionally, text messages can be utilized to notify relevant personnel when finished parts are ready for retrieval. In cases where you need to arrange for a dispatcher to collect a load from a factory, we can assist you by facilitating this process through text messages. Lastly, we emphasize the significance of preventative maintenance and similar programs, highlighting how SMS texting can be valuable in such scenarios. The range of applications for sending SMS texts is extensive and offer numerous benefits. So here's how it works. So first, you need to subscribe. Now there aren't ongoing costs for monthly subscription, but you do need to sign up with an SMS gateway service so that you can start sending emails to them. And then they will forward the text portion of the email to the carrier to ensure it's done reliably. And then the carrier will ensure it reaches the recipient's phone. Today we will be using ClickSend, a prominent SMS gateway service. While there are many options available globally, ClickSend stands out as a leading provider and we will showcase its features. With offices worldwide, they offer extensive coverage. Regarding costs, it's typical for text messages to be priced at around 2.5 cents per message. Considering the potential reduction in downtime and the efficiency gains of promptly reaching the appropriate individuals, this cost is quite economical. Now we'll look at the process we would go through with ClickSend, which is similar to other vendors. First, you create an account and there are no costs or subscriptions involved. Next, you inform ClickSend through their online gateway about the email addresses authorized to send emails for delivery. This ensures that only authorized emails are processed. If your OCS is responsible for sending emails to ClickSend for SMS delivery, you can easily add the OCS email addresses to your ClickSend account. Another option is to include ClickSend API details in the email subject line, which allows for authorization and processing. As mentioned earlier, the SMS message delivery process begins with an email. Gmail is the most commonly used platform for machines, including Horner OCS and PLCs with email capabilities. While there are alternative methods, Gmail remains the most common choice. In May of last year, Gmail made changes to their authentication process for Gmail accounts. As a result, using your Google login credentials alone is no longer sufficient for machines that use Gmail. They introduced a feature called App Password, which requires you to obtain a specific password granted by Gmail. This app password is then used in conjunction with the OCS login credentials. Now we'll quickly review how to use email with the OCS, specifically how to configure it. So we'll see here with a few slides and then we'll have a demo. So to access email configuration, we go to the main logic editing area in Cscape, then to Program menu, select Messaging, and then select Email. When configuring the email, the initial step is to assign a status variable or register to track the delivery progress. This allows us to receive real-time updates on the status of the emails, including successful delivery or any encountered errors. Next, we need to configure the email address for the OCS. It could be something like machine123@gmail.com or any other email address of your choice. Please note that Gmail is used as an example here, but it is not mandatory. Then we will configure the email server access, typically using Gmail. This involves specifying details such as the SMTP server name, commonly smtp.gmail.com, the DNS server IP address, and the port number. The recommended port number for TLS encrypted email sessions is 587. Lastly, we will configure the login credentials consisting of the username and password. Usually, the username is the machine's email address. As for the password, it will be the app password obtained from Google, assuming we're using Gmail. Next, we'll create an email directory, categorizing the personnel you'll be sending emails to, such as maintenance, management, and material handling. Each group will have one or more corresponding email addresses. Our approach involves assigning variables for configuration directly on the OCS screen, ensuring easy future updates without programming changes. Finally, we'll configure the email messages themselves, including the recipient group, a triggering variable, subject, and body. The body can contain text or embedded real-world data like temperature or timestamps. In our example, we embedded a timestamp indicating when the OCS sent the message. To proceed, we'll navigate to the Click Send dashboard instead of starting with the Seascape example program. In the dashboard, we've already created an account named Horner OCS and authorized ClickSend to process emails from hornerautomation.ocs@gmail.com. This authorization process was done through their web portal, though an alternative option is to include the username and the API key in the subject line of the email. The dashboard displays the number of processed messages costing approximately 2.5 cents each. It is essential to establish an account with an SMS gateway service. In this case, we used ClickSend. Now we'll proceed to Seascape for a demonstration of our example program. In the program, most of the configuration can be done directly on the screen, eliminating the need for Seascape for future changes. We have a setup screen where you can enter the IP address, netmask, and gateway, similar to any Ethernet application. Additionally, you'll configure the login credentials for the email server, such as SMTP server, the app password authorized by Google, DNS server, and SMTP port. For convenience, there are buttons to load default values and clear entries if needed. This user-friendly approach streamlines setup and allows for manual changes or starting fresh if required. So here's where we would assign the local email address to the machine. In our example, it's hornerautomation.ocs@gmail.com. We'll also look at assigning email addresses to different groups, such as maintenance, management, and material handling. In a real application, multiple email addresses would be assigned to each group. Finally, we have a test screen to verify the proper delivery of emails based on our setup. This is where most of the work in the example application is focused. The next thing we'll do is look at the status page, which provides information on possible faults and errors when sending an email, as well as the current state of the email sending engine. If there are any error messages from the SMTP server or Google, they will be displayed here. Now we'll look at the configuration. So we go back to Seascape, and then we go to Program, select Messaging, and then select Email. We'll assign variables for logging into the SMTP server, including authentication and access details. The email address for the local machine is also configured using variables for easy screen-based changes. Now we'll review the email configuration once again. We'll create an email directory with various groups and their respective email addresses. We'll configure outgoing messages, including fixed text and embedded data fields. For instance, we've included a timestamp from the real-time clock. If you're using ClickSend, You can include the ClickSend account or username along with the ClickSend API key in the subject line using a specific syntax. This is optional and is specific to ClickSend authentication. That's the overview of the email configuration process. Now we'll look at the bench. So here's the home screen and we'll navigate to the email section. So here we have the essential settings: IP address, netmask, and gateway. The Gmail server URL is where we'll log in to send emails. We have our assigned app password from Google. For DNS, we usually use 8.8.8.8 or 8.8.4.4. The SMTP port is set to 587 for TLS encryption. We can load all of these defaults at once with a convenient button. Now we'll go and configure the email address for the local OCS. We'll set this as hornerautomation.ocs@gmail.com. The default email for maintenance and management are set. Now we'll check the status screen to ensure everything is in order and everything is working. No emails are currently being sent and we haven't received any responses from the SMTP server. Next, we'll demonstrate sending a regular email, even though we're primarily interested in the SMS aspect. We'll trigger the test email and the trigger button will stay active until the OCS turns it off, which usually takes around 10 seconds. The email has been successfully delivered to Gmail and we're waiting for it to arrive in the inbox. And there it is, just a few seconds later. Now we'll demonstrate it on the phone. This is the email generated by the Horner OCS all-in-one controller, timestamped at 2:22 p.m. We sent a standard email as a demonstration. Now we'll move on to sending SMS messages for quicker communication. We'll change the test email message to the ClickSend address, which includes a phone number and the country code, followed by @sms.clicksend.com. So now we'll trigger the test email and wait for it to be delivered to Gmail. The trigger will turn off after about 10 seconds. Now we're waiting for the text message to arrive. Sometimes it doesn't arrive immediately, but usually it's quite fast. It may take a minute or so, but in testing, we've always received the message within that time frame. While we wait for the SMS message to arrive, we'll explore another interesting feature. We have the ability to send a text message via voice, and to do that, we change the destination address, and then ClickSend will make a phone call to the recipient and read the message out loud. Although it's not necessary to use this feature, we'll demonstrate it to you now. It will take about 10 seconds to be delivered through Gmail and then we'll see the results. So the call is coming through and now we'll listen to it as it reads the email message generated by the Horner OCS.
This is a test email generated by the Horner OCS all-in-one controller to 25 and 51 seconds.
So that was the email message being read to us by ClickSend through a phone call. And finally, the SMS message arrived, although it took a few minutes. Let's examine the text message sent from ClickSend at 2:24:05. Despite the slight delay, it's crucial that the message was delivered within a reasonable time frame and a couple of minutes can be considered timely. Today, we successfully demonstrated the ability to send SMS messages through an SMS to email gateway. Additionally, we explored sending regular emails and briefly experimented with voice calls. Sending SMS messages as a response to machine conditions is a highly desirable feature. Text messages are known to elicit quick responses in today's world. Ensuring reliable delivery of these messages is crucial. Our past experience has shown that directly sending emails to cellular carriers is not so reliable. However, we recommend using SMS gateway services as they have proven to be reliable. If you're considering sending SMS messages from a machine, this is the recommended approach. So that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you so much for listening, and the Q&A session will begin shortly.
Okay, so that was SMS through an email service. So next week we have mass move operations, and the registration link is there as usual, as we have the next couple up until the start of August. And if there's any old ones you want to go back on, just feel free to go down to the past ones. You can search for them, or they're all in order of how they've been released. And on top of that, if there's anything you would like us to cover, just let us know and we would look into getting that done. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week.